Hey everybody, what's up? It's that time of year again, the dreaded time of year. If you live in the East Coast or the South, you know what time I'm talking about. It's June bugs. You might know them as Japanese beetles. Around here, we always called them June bugs when I was growing up. One day, the garden looked beautiful and luscious and just amazing. You're like, wow, the garden is really doing great this year. I am so excited. I am happy. I've got a green thumb. Things are going good and life is great. But then the next day it happens. It starts out, you see one and you're just like, oh, well, this isn't too bad. Things won't get out of control. And then the next day you see more. And then by the end of the week, there are hundreds of them. And no matter what you do, they are taking over. You're throwing them into buckets of water. And what do? I don't know what to do. Yeah, these are Japanese beetles, and every year you can expect them in your garden, and this year is no exception. They devour plants, they take no prisoners, and they destroy your dreams. I'm not exaggerating. These things are actually really gorgeous, I'm not gonna lie. They have this really iridescent shell, but they can wreak havoc. As far as I know, these are invasive, but here are some things that are happening in my garden this year that I thought might help you. I've noticed this year I have a lot of morning glories. Usually I don't grow morning glories, but this is the first year they've done really well. They're gorgeous and the blooms are really nice. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like morning glories, but I'm about to show you something that is a really redeeming quality for them. The Japanese beetles are drawn to these things and they're leaving everything else alone. Morning glories are not edible for people, and really they're just an ornamental. You can't even use them for cut flowers. But the Japanese beetles have absolutely loved these plants. You can tell they have done so much damage to these morning glories, but that's another great attribute of the morning glory is that they can be almost invasive in a lot of, different places, but they have this extreme hardiness and vigor to keep going. So even though these Japanese beetles are all over the place and eating like crazy, the morning glories are still blooming and spreading and healthy. If you have experience with Japanese beetles, you know that they only last a few weeks. Sometimes further south you might get 2 waves of them, but here they only have 1 wave and they last a few weeks. The good news is I haven't had a single Japanese beetle on my zinnias. I haven't had a single Japanese beetle on any of my bean plants. The infestation on the roses is nowhere near like it usually is. There are a lot of good things happening in my garden, and that is why I'm such a huge advocate of putting flowers in your garden and thinking outside of the box in terms of your vegetable garden. Guys, just because you can't eat it doesn't mean it's not beneficial to something out there. In addition to the fact that these Japanese beetles are just drawn to my morning glories and staying off of everything else, there are also other plants that can help you too. For example, zonal geraniums, there's been studies done that show that those plants, when Japanese beetles eat them, the beetles become paralyzed for 24 hours. I'll put a link to that in the description. You can read about it. Yeah, it doesn't kill them, but it's a lot easier to throw them in the bucket of soapy water, that's for sure. And not to mention, I think that probably increases the chance of birds eating them, I would imagine. In addition to that, I also have 4 o'clocks in my garden, which one of my subscribers, I think it was Garden Tricks, actually told me that are toxic to Japanese beetles. So the flowers, of course, are toxic to people, but they're also toxic to these Japanese beetles. So the Japanese beetles are eating this, and the plant is pretty much doing pest control for my garden. For me, gardens are really about creating an ecosystem that can manage itself. If it can't manage itself, then it's not the perfect fit for my yard. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but in this case, I feel like this is a prime example of my garden taking care of itself. And this is the first time in many, many years that the infestation has not been that bad. I mean, you're seeing a lot of them, but trust me, it can be worse. These things are nasty. I think anybody who has a garden in the South is like, yeah, girl, I know. These things are nasty. For the most part, any plants that are strong and healthy will survive and just thrive after this is over. It's ugly. I know it's not the prettiest thing, especially if you have a landscape garden and you want it to be pretty. It's not pretty, I understand, but and if that is something that's high on your priority list, I just hope that you I really can't help but hope that you take an organic type approach to it and avoid spraying stuff. In the past, I have used Japanese beetle traps. That is an option, and they work, I guess, to a certain extent. It really is up to you and whether or not you want to do that. Personally, the first year that I tried to use a Japanese beetle trap, I had a really bad experience in that a bird actually got caught in the sticky trap. And I went out in the yard one day and there was a bird caught in it, and I had to like pry off this poor injured bird off of my sticky trap. And he ended up being okay, which I was really glad. It injured his like feathers. It plucked some feathers out, which was horrifying to me, you know. And for a while, he was actually like, he couldn't fly, and he was just road running around my garden, like hiding in foliage and stuff. But I was so happy to see him finally fly away one day. It's important to always just consider the impact that we have on our surroundings when we choose to do pest control. I feel like there are so many options out there, both organic and not. And it really is important that you do your research. It really is important that you just, you know, don't go to the home improvement store and just pick up any old thing off the shelf, especially in your vegetable garden. I know my way of managing my garden isn't for everyone. People always talk about, oh, people ask me how long I spend in my garden working, and if I'm being honest, I don't spend any time in my garden working. If I'm in my garden, I'm walking around just enjoying looking at everything and how the progress is and seeing what problems I have, or I've got my camera with me and I'm making videos for you guys. That's literally almost the only time that I spend in my entire garden, and I like it that way. It's okay if some weeds grow. It's okay if there are some bad bugs. It is okay because I know there's going to be good bugs that are going to come along and just love the environment that I have to offer them. I always get a little bit defensive about it because I know it comes across as this very like hippie green crunchy type style of going about it. The fact of the matter is I just really like to keep things as natural and basic as possible, and I think that really pays off, especially, you know, living like we do today where so many things are processed and, you know, grown a certain way. It's really nice just to get back to a basic way of growing things. Overall, that's really about it. I know I can't be the only one who is severely annoyed with these. These Japanese beetles always eat roses. I can't believe they're not on my zinnias. They love zinnias. I cannot believe that they've not touched them, guys. I don't know. There are some of my roses, but they're on the smaller rose bushes that are younger and weaker. My established rose bush, the real strong one, there's one bug on it. That's it. That's the one that you saw in this video. He was the only one on the whole entire plant. And you can bet I flicked him into oblivion. So hopefully there won't be any more on my rose bush. I always get frustrated this time of year with roses anyway, because even though the weather is still nice for rose blooms, if one blooms, these bugs will completely obliterate it within the day, and it seems like every time you go out there, there's more of them. That's really about it. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to give you this master cure-all for this problem, but just have faith knowing that this problem will pass, and it's not going to be one that lasts into the fall, which is something that I always just take comfort in, to know that this is only for a short time. Things will start looking better soon. Really though, when June bugs show up, I take that as the signal, like, okay, insect pressure is on now. Usually when June bugs show up, from there on out, you see squash bugs and cucumber beetles and all kinds of things that are going to try to eat all your plants. Ugh, I hate it. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.